G'day, Agent Mahar here, and I'm going to respond to a comment in this video because I think it's really important, and I hope it helps the commenter, and I hope it helps others. So I just need to find that right now. Okay, let me see. Yes, on this video on the video I did, borderline communication deficits, which was a response to a comment about, I guess, the first video in this series of, it's ongoing. People are really needing to, and engaging with the videos, needing to learn, asking more questions, and a lot's coming from those videos. I guess what the best way for me to put it. So, and the first video was borderline personality, communication impossibility, and then I did a response to another commenter to try to explain some more. So this commenter, and I mean you absolutely no disrespect, the first comment they left was, I'm trying to read from here, and I need to make everything bigger, text I mean. So they first said, I think any person raised in a family, well, everybody is, except for people who might be in an orphanage, etc. Pretty much everybody is, quote, raised, unquote, to some degree in a family of some sort or other, and we all know often they're not so healthy. So the commenter said raised in a family can be this way, especially be this way, meaning I think like BPD with the communication deficits and impossibilities. So that's what the commenter means by anyone raised in a family can be this way, which I don't agree with. And then the commenter said, especially when young, unless parents and schools and religions teach them otherwise. Well, yeah, I mean, so there's a little bit of a contradiction here because it depends a lot on how parents are parenting or not, or if they have BPD or NPD or something themselves or not, right? So the commenter makes a global statement, but then narrows it down a little bit. But I don't think, especially today, but I don't think for all time really, we've been really able to count on schools or even churches to take the place of the kind of healthy parents that every child needs and deserves, but that more children than not, and more of us that are now adults and whatnot, didn't get. And I'm just trying to read this. Sorry, it's not easy. Then the commenter says, I mean, it takes some wisdom to finally come to the realization that you are both alone and, that you are born alone and you will, pass away alone, and can trust self only in this world, yet we are brought up otherwise. I just want to say, first of all, I really feel for this commenter because what they're expressing in their point of view, opinion, but likely experience, sounds like it was very painful, may still well be, very isolating, and this is what people go through if you have cluster B parents, but it doesn't happen in every family, or a cluster B parent. It doesn't happen in every family to the same degree. So this person equates this idea that these communication deficits or lack of self, etc., that are in people with BPD, that people with BPD have to contend with in healing and recovery journeys, or like if they don't, then nothing changes. This commenter is equating that with that happens in every family, pretty much, and then saying, with a couple of caveats that are, again, just really contradictory to what it seems the commenter actually believes. And then the commenter says, you're born alone and you're going to leave the world alone, and you can't trust anybody, only yourself. You absolutely can't trust another human being whatsoever. And then, and so that's the way the world is, according to the commenter, and I hear you. You have your reason for your view and your feelings and or opinion, and then some experience. So the commenter is saying, yet we are brought up otherwise. In other words, we're brought up with the idea, or culture teaches us, or spirituality or religion might teach us, to trust a higher power, to trust something spiritual, to trust the universe, to trust someone else. And this commenter clearly saying, you come in the world alone, you leave in the world alone, can't trust anybody in the middle, which is, pretty sad, because they must have been really hurt. And then I think I left a comment, but it's not showing here. I apologize because of where I'm reading these from. I got to make this a little bit bigger again. I do need a glasses adjustment as well, which would help. But, lockdown, stay-at-home orders, can't deal with that right now. So I did say something back to the commenter, which I'm sorry isn't here. But if you look at that video that I referenced, you could see the whole thread. Then the commenter says back, AJ, you can never know, because I was trying to say it's not always like that, or something like that. And the commenter said, AJ, you can never know another soul completely. Therefore, we cannot trust another soul completely. And now this person's gone from people to souls. Okay, so yes, we have a soul. And that's probably one of the most important aspects of the self, or part, who each one of us is. Okay, so the commenter says, so you can't know another soul completely. And may I just say, the chances of knowing another soul or another person or trusting them very well at all, knowing them at all, you have to first know yourself and trust yourself and know your own soul. So, okay, where was I? Cannot trust another soul completely. People are fake and phony and liars and cheaters and manipulators, etc., etc. And that was again on the video I did, borderline communication, deficits, response to a comment, and then this commenter commented on the response to, that video. So this is really sad. Right? Somebody's in a lot of pain. And they believe what they believe, and I'm not here to say anything about that, no judgment or anything like that. But what I think is really important about that is that how it sounds like the person is really hurting and really maybe depressed as well. But is that the best hope after being really hurt by maybe a parent with BPD or NPD? Or a partner, or both? Is that really the best remedy, do you think? Or way to look at it, or way to live your life? Equating things like what happened to you, how you've been hurt, and maybe beyond hurt, devastated, that you can't trust anybody at all. And that you can't trust anybody at all, probably because you've been really hurt. But that you can't trust anybody at all because you can't know their soul completely. See, this is really interesting. I feel for the commenter. It's really interesting because you can't trust others. I don't know why they're saying completely, because that gets dichotomous. It's like an all or nothing, right? Completely is one extreme, not at all. And the commenter kind of goes from one extreme to the other. Very dichotomous. So in people's experience, it's going to be different levels of woundedness for sure. And maybe people aren't yet in their healing recovery journeys, and they're not easy journeys to take. I've been through a few of them, major ones. And what I know about that from lived experience alone is that we need to lean into the adversity of the pain. We need to make choices. We need to act on finding out more about why it hurts so much and what's going on. That's whether people have BPD. Some people with NPD can be helped more in the covert, fragile area than the overt, grandiose narcissist. But they're not all the same. And people with BPD need to get into this healing recovery journey for themselves. So too do people with codependency or whatever else is maybe going on, because there can be other factors. So this idea that, the equating that this commenter makes about that, what I was talking about in that video, that has to do with people with untreated BPD and their adverse childhood experience, that's one thing. But that doesn't happen to everybody, but perhaps it happened for the commenter, which is an extremely painful situation. But more to the point, are people, like the commenter sounds, and I don't mean any judgment, and the commenter can comment back and correct me if I'm wrong, because I could well be, just sounds like they're in a place where whatever has happened to them, they just don't feel like, obviously, there's any reason to trust anyone, and you can only trust yourself, and you can't know another soul completely, and you come into the world alone, you're going to leave the world alone, almost like, what's the inference there? I don't know. Could be like, so what's the point? Or is it worth it? Or could be somebody even struggling with what is life really, what's the meaning of all this? Because the more people are hurt in relationships, with people with BP and NPD specifically, and more people have codependency, this is a really painful way to live life. This is not the healthy, averagely mentally healthy, let me say, better way, because I was going to say ideal, but I want to use that word. So what I really want to say about what the commenter said is that, yes, we're born alone, and yes, we're going to leave the world alone, if you believe that. I believe if you have spirituality or faith, it's not all about being all alone, but yeah, in terms of other people, nobody's going to share those journeys with you. But what about the middle, right? What about the middle? And what about getting to the richness of the paradox of life, where life doesn't just kick you by the butt and you're really hurting, and then you can't, or people choose, really, more to the point, maybe not so consciously, to just sort of to end up stuck in places that are very painful. And so this idea that you can trust only yourself, well, no. There are people out there that are trustworthy. Are there fewer of them per capita than maybe people with BP, NPD, and other problems? Could be. But I'd like to think that there's still, there's a lot of people who are healing and recovering. Yes, from BPD. Some from low-range NPD. There are people healing and recovering from codependency. In these processes, people are going to learn how to trust themselves more, enough, in a healthier way, because there isn't self-trust for anybody with even low range or traits of NPD. There's no self-trust because there's no self. People with untreated BPD. People with codependency, you're not even on board with who you are. You're not really thinking, people are not really in their own self so much as you are externalizing out needs and the rescuing, enabling, fixing, etc., to avoid yourself and what hurts. So what's really important about this, so much is, but what I can put into one video is that people that are kind of like in the place where I imagine the commenter is, I don't know exactly what that means, but people that are in this place of real pain, lack of trust, believing that they have to go it alone, which, by the way, what the commenter said sounds a lot like counterdependence. And counterdependence is not healthier than codependence. So they're just two extreme opposites, but there's still two, for everything else that can be said about codependency and counterdependency, there are two extreme presentations of a lot of pain that needs to be healed and resolved in your life. Whether you're with a BPD or an NPD, or you have a parent, whatever the circumstances are, at the end of the day, when you turn to you finally, when you want to get help and take action and go to therapy, it's not really so much about the BPD, the NPD, or the cluster B parent. It's really about you, finding out more about you and knowing yourself better. And yeah, reaching into that wounded inner child. So trust, I just want to say to what the commenter said, self-trust in a counter-dependent way will not be healthy trust. It will be more to the point someone experiencing hopelessness, fear, a lot of negative emotions around the idea of trusting anyone else. As this commenter says, they believe you just can't. But self-trust isn't born out of a counter-dependent place of thinking that you can only trust self and therefore no one else. That's not going to be healthy self-trust. And then the other thing about this is that when you get to a place and you get into healing, recovering, and therapy, self-trust You need to get to know yourself better and heal from codependency for sure, and other things if you have other things going on for yourself or somebody with BPD, etc. Before you're going to be able to trust yourself in what is a healthy way. So the degree to which we can trust others is measured by or made possible or impossible by the degree to which we trust ourselves. And that is what another piece that's at the heart of healing from codependency. It's also at the heart of healing from BPD, finding the self, growing that self up through therapy and learning how to trust that self. People with codependency need to get into therapy. The healing recovery journey could be multifaceted and not, and complex, depending on what your experience with cluster Bs is, etc. But the idea that when you hurt so badly that you take a counter-dependent position, that you just need to trust yourself and nobody else, you won't even know healthy self-trust. Because if you did know healthy self-trust, to what the commenter was saying, anybody that knows healthy self-trust can then take a chance, take a healthy risk on trying to trust others. Because that it's not how much we actually trust others, it's how much we trust ourselves to take a risk to try, to see who somebody else is and if they're trustworthy. But I think there are a lot of trustworthy, authentic people out there. And, they're harder to come by these days, but it doesn't mean there aren't any. And I just wanted to look back at the comment for a second here, if I can find it again. Whoops. I have so much button trouble. I think it's partly this laptop. Can't all be me? No, I'm not trying to not be responsible for my own issues here of whatever this is about. So, yeah, the commenter also said, people are fake and phony and liars and cheaters and manipulators, etc., etc. Well, lots of people with BPD or NPD or some people without either can be any one of those things or can be maybe many of those things. But again, this is a very dichotomous, very black and white. That's a sort of all painted black type of, I'm not saying the person has BPD, but it's an all, they may or they may not. It's an all painted black type of viewpoint and perspective. And again, whenever you get into like everybody, always, never, it's dichotomous and it's just not emotionally healthy, and it's not critical or rational thinking, coming from a place of a lot of pain, this commenter, I believe. So to say that everybody is a liar, a cheater, a phony, no, I that's just not even in factual evidence in the world, let's say. But it could be all that the commenter has experienced. They're so hurt. This is where they're left and this is what they're thinking. Can you relate to at least some, if not entirely relate to what the commenter said? So, and then just going back, because if you do, therapy is the answer for you. Because there's a middle, there's a paradox, but you have to heal and know yourself well enough to be able to learn how to trust yourself in a healthy way, have a healthy relationship to and with yourself before you try to have any more relationships with anybody else whatsoever. Because that's the thing that happens to so many people in childhood. Happened to me in many ways. Happens to not everybody. So many people though in dysfunctional families of origin. And not all families of origin are dysfunctional. There's no perfect family of origin, but some function well enough to get people into adulthood through early childhood development, etc., to where people have boundaries and know themselves and know their limits and can trust self enough to trust other and will make better choices and have better boundaries and not end up with the borderlines and the narcissists of the world. So you have to keep remembering that if that's not your experience so far, that your healing and recovery journey, especially from codependency, it awaits your being able to find this out for yourself. And so this idea that everybody's phony, everybody's a liar, everybody's a cheater, well, obviously it's coming from this commenter. It sounds like they're in incredible pain, and that maybe they're just getting resigned in a way to that dichotomous thinking and probably feeling, which would be very painful. So I just wanted to say, to bring this back, two things. One, and summarize and end here, is two things about this, what I've been talking about here in the comment, is one is that people need to stop believing so much in their false hope. This commenter sounds like they don't have a lot of hope right now. I don't know, but it sounds like that. But people need to stop having false hope in the borderline or the narcissist or whomever when you have codependency. You need to get into healing and recovery, and I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you, so that you can really find real hope. And it comes from within. It's an inside job. That and spirituality or faith. And the other thing is that this commenter says all this in response to that video that I did that was speaking specifically about people with BPD and the challenges that they have for other people and or anyone with BPD to understand it more. The communication impossibility, just like the relational impossibility of untreated BPD. And this isn't everyone. And yet somehow the commenter is saying, this happens in families all the time. Well, I mean, that's not erroneous. It happens in families often. But not everybody is the same as somebody with the adverse childhood experience that is known as BPD, which I'll have more coming on. There's a reason why I say it that way. But so it's really important to think about if you resonate with the commenter and or not, and what does that mean for you? And to the commenter, I would just say, I don't know if you're in therapy. I don't know if you've had therapy. I don't know exactly what your life experience has been at all because I don't know you. But I would advocate for you to think think about some more, that maybe getting back into therapy or starting therapy would really be helpful for you, because you're obviously in a lot of pain, and maybe you just feel angry, or maybe I don't know how you feel. You might not be feeling the pain. But what I hear in your comment is a lot of either anger and or pain, and that you've been really, really hurt. And what I'd like you to know and other people to know is that we can choose to heal those kinds of wounds. And so, and I can't remember what I said to the commenter in between, the first comment and the last one I just read you. So those two in a row I read you. But it's there on that video, and it was probably something to the effect of that, it's not everybody in every family is going to end up with BPD, and so everybody in every family, or most people in most families, are not going to have these communication deficits and communication and relational impossibilities the way that some people can for other reasons, but many people do because they have untreated BPD. So this is just another example, I think, in a way, the commenter has lost themselves, if they knew themselves, because I don't know which side of the fence they're on, right? And I don't want to guess, but people with codependency can lose themselves and end up in this counter-dependent place that's no more healthy than codependency, because it's the vast paradoxical middle where you can find yourself, create a healthy relationship to and with yourself, work with someone, and like I say, I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you, to be able to find yourself and know yourself better, and to heal what really has you in a world of hurt, and maybe still negating yourself as a codependent or living in denial, and then maybe not having, I sense that the commenter right now doesn't have a great sense of meaning in their life, and maybe I'm wrong, but you don't want to be in a place where you're allowing your pain and all the hurt to continue instead of getting into healing and recovery and therapy to work on it, so that you can find, if you feel like you've lost yourself so much, and many people with codependency have, that you don't know what the meaning of your life is anymore, or it all starts to feel and seem purposeless. That's your pain talking. That's your self-abandonment talking. That can be changed. You don't have to stay there with that. That's an incredibly painful place to be, and it's not who you really are. So anyways, I hope something I said in this might help the commenter to think about something and might help others if you resonate. Take care. I'm getting to the button.